Thank you for downloading from the BBC. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
Hello, I'm Matthew Bannister, and this is Outlook from the BBC World Service. 20 years ago, the American city of Los Angeles erupted into rioting. More than 50 people died, thousands were injured, and the damage ran into hundreds of millions of dollars. The cause of the violence was the acquittal of 4 white police officers accused of beating the black motorist Rodney King. He'd been pulled over for drink driving following a car chase and subjected to a sustained barrage of kicks, baton clubs and taser shocks by police officers. The film of the beating, shot by an amateur cameraman, caused outrage around the world. Well, Rodney King became a symbol of police brutality towards black people, and the incident has taken its place in the history of the American civil rights movement. But he is a man with demons of his own, particularly a lifelong battle with alcohol and regular brushes with the law. When I spoke to him on the line from LA, he told me that drink played a big part in his childhood in the Altadena area of the city.
My mom was very religious. She was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad, he was just a normal guy. He wasn't no religion or nothing like that. He did have problems with drinking throughout the years that I've known him, and in fact, he was a functioning alcoholic. He went to work every day, every morning, and did house cleaning in the day and building janitorial work at night. At the nighttime, he would take me and my oldest brother with him to work from 5 in the evening to 2 in the morning. We would do maintenance work after school with him. It was 4 boys, so he wasn't going to have no nonsense, and he wanted his drinking time not to be interrupted, at the same time wanting us to do a lot of the work he was supposed to have been doing.
Did you have some difficult times with him yourself?
Yeah, with my dad?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can remember a couple of times when I knew I had it coming. I had struck a match and threw it in the trash when I was young and ran out of there and just was scared. And it caught on fire, and he told me to go in there, and I almost burnt the house down. He told me, go in there and take a bath and don't dry off. And he whooped me with extension cord. And it just felt horrible, you know what I mean? And he was no nonsense, he was no nonsense, especially when he was drinking. He was very strict on us, He'd tell you, go out there and pick your own switch. As far as the beatings, they would call that child abuse now.
Right, they would. What sort of age were you when you started drinking?
It started pretty young for me. I would be at the family gatherings, and they'd lay their drinks around, and I'd sip them. I was sipping around 8 years old, and I got to really drinking when I hit about 13. But my drinking started at 8. I can remember me and my brother squishing on little purple grapes and putting the top on them for 3 days and letting them brew, and we tasting it, because that's what we were around. Grandmother making their own whiskey and wines.
And what age were you when you first started to get into trouble, into crime?
I would say I was always curious. It started off with little minor things like buying some stolen goods from somebody for my mini bike, and kind of progressed a little bit as I got older, but nothing really serious.
But you did go to jail at one time, didn't you, for being involved in a robbery?
Yeah, I went to jail for a robbery, and that was later on in my life. We got into a push and shove incident. I could have hurt the guy real bad if I wanted to. I had a crowbar.
You went to prison for that, and you were out on parole after that prison sentence on the 3rd of March 1991, an infamous night. What had you been up to that evening in the events leading up to the beating?
Now, the robbery, that happened 2 years before this beating. So I got my life back on track. My old construction job called me back and told me, can you make it to work Monday? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can make it to work that Monday. And me and my buddies, I went over to the house. We had some beers and had a nice time. And I decided, let me go up to Handsome Dan where my dad used to take us fishing and kick back. And I got on the freeway, and I was speeding. And I know it's not right to be drinking and driving, but I did it that night, and it was a bad mistake. And that particular night, the police got behind me. And
you took off. Did you take off because you feared that they would put you back in prison if they caught you?
For one, I was going to get beat for running. That's just how they do people, period, especially American Negroes have paid the price dearly when it comes to running from the police. I seen people getting really bad beatings up there in Altadena in the area where I grew up at. And I knew once I stopped that car, I wasn't going to have my job on Monday. That new bridge construction job wasn't going to be there. I don't know how I'm going to feed my family now.
But there was a chase at about 100 miles an hour, wasn't there, before you stopped?
The car did do about 105. But, once I stopped that car, my dad had always told me, if you get in a situation like I got in, whatever you do, do not be combative with the police because they will kill you.
So what happened when you got out of the car?
So when I got out of the car, Melanie Singer...
She was one of the police officers?
Yes. She walked up to me. She got my ID, and as she was walking away with my ID, I told her, tell them that they don't have to do this, because the sergeant was walking over to me very fast. I could see his boots. He just walked up to me, kicked me in the temple, broke my eye socket, and I don't know if he broke the jaw on that first kick, but then he asked me, how do you feel, nigga? And wow, I couldn't even say it out right, because I couldn't move. I couldn't say nothing. Only thing I could say is I feel fine. And what did I say that for? As he walked away after he kicked me, they come running towards me. And now the sergeant shoots me with that taser. Doom! So I'm being electrified. It feels like my dad's beating me like 100 times worse with that extension cord and getting in the tub and getting out of the tub wet and being whipped with extension cord. So I'm being tased like that. He stops the taser and he asked me, how do you feel now? And I couldn't say nothing. And he said, we're going to kill you, nigga, run. Believe me, I tried to run, but they had already broke my leg. So when I'm falling down, he's saying, stay still. Once I hit the ground, stay still. But he's still shooting the juice through me. And I can't stay still because my muscles are contracting. Once he slows down the juice stops, they move in with the batons and start beating me, saying, hands behind your back, using the N-word, hands behind your back. And I can't put my hands behind my back because you're beating me. So they slow down with the beating batons, and the Brasino, the other police, the skinny one, he started shooting me with the taser some more. So he's telling them that you're going to get shocked. Wait a minute, you're going to get shocked. I could hear him. He was worried about the metal batons making contact with my bloody body because I was soaked in blood.
Rodney, did you think you were going to die at that time?
Oh, no, it was just a matter of seconds before I died. And I was hoping that I would to hurry up and get it over with because it felt so bad. But what happened was the Mexican band on that big Greyhound bus, they wouldn't move. So they couldn't finish me off like they wanted to. I was going to die out there that night. I felt it. I knew I was.
So what, the bus was in the way?
Yeah, it was the witness. They didn't want the witness there. They was going to witness my death. And the cops knew it. And I'm like screaming for my dear life, man. I'm screaming to the death.
It must be so horrible to have to even to think about it now, to relive it.
Well, the thing is I'm not even supposed to be here. The truth is. And if you knew what I felt that night, you would be glad to be here just to even talk about it. And that is my testimony.
I just wanted to find out what it was like when you woke up in hospital. I mean, because I think you'd had 5 hours of surgery to save your life, hadn't you?
Yeah, when my mom walked past me, she didn't even know who I was. I was so banged up, and I was paralyzed for 3 days. The inmates in there had to feed me milk. I couldn't even eat nothing. My body was like green, and then I turned purple, and then I turned blue, after the bruising. It was just a mess, man.
And when did you discover that somebody had filmed what had happened?
Well, it was a police lady came in there, and she said, baby, she said, we seen it all on tape. I don't believe what happened to you. She said, but don't worry, you just get yourself well, and it's all on tape. Because I was holding on to my little tennis shoes and a piece of my shirt because it was full of blood. I thought that was the only evidence I had.
That must have been an extraordinary moment for you, because that must have been a ray of hope that you would get justice.
I felt like I was so glad that I wasn't a part of the civil rights movements back in the days. And I'm so glad that the civil rights movement, people have shed their blood in the way that they did. So I had a chance to see justice.
But justice would be a long time coming. On the 29th of April 1992, at a 2-month televised trial in which Rodney himself was not called to give evidence, an all-white jury returned with a verdict that had a seismic impact on America.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Stacy C. Kuhn, not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon.
The jury went on to acquit the other 3 officers, and all 4 of them walked free from the dock. Rodney King's lawyer summed up the feelings of many.
It sends a bad message. It says it's okay to go ahead and beat somebody when they're down and kick the crap out of them, and it's okay because if it's not videotaped, don't worry about it. Another brother officer won't turn you in, and if a brother officer does turn you in, don't worry, we'll get white jurors or whoever it takes, and you'll walk.
For Rodney King, it was a devastating blow.
You know, I was so hurt. It would put me back. Felt like I was living back in the 30s or in the 40s, you know, for a moment. And then I had a sad feeling in me like this is a part of the past. This is deeper than me. I stayed locked up in my apartment for a little while. I was so much in a shock, I just couldn't believe it. I was just a walking zombie, it felt like. You know, time had stopped, you know.
As news of the trial verdict spread through Los Angeles, thousands of people took to the streets to express their outrage. An angry crowd chanting "Guilty, guilty" tried to storm the police headquarters in the business district and went on to set fire to shops and cars.
We're in a lot of trouble, dude. A lot of trouble. These people are angry, and they have every right to be.
This is exactly what Rodney King got.
There have been approximately 600 fires throughout the night.
I am walking in front of a line of police in riot gear, carrying the full equipment. There's hundreds of men around me, young, angry men protesting.
I could see the smoke and stuff from up in Altadena from the hills.
So you saw that the riots had broken out?
And, yeah, I was so sorry and sad when it broken out, you know. I had some white friends coming over to the house and saying, "Rodney, we was out there and we were doing this, man, to the black dudes came up and you was trying to hurt us and stuff. We had to get out of there." And I'm like, oh my God. And when I started hearing everybody, you know, tell me stories and stuff, I'm like, man, this is dangerous. These are just like regular people, and we're out in our own country like it's a war.
East corner, he's on a roof. He's south of Len Jacks, on the 2-story building south of Len Jacks. He's firing right now. South of Len Jacks.
It's a disgrace. It don't make no sense. It's not going to do no better. It's going to make it worse.
You want to approach south on La Brea or east or west on Melrose.
And did you go and look what was happening? Did you go firsthand to see what was happening?
Yeah, I did. I threw on my reggae hat with my dreadlocks coming out, and I got in the car and I started riding out there. But it was way beyond what I wanted to be out in, so I had to turn around and come back. It was too scary for me, you know.
They're pulling the driver out of the van and they're kicking the driver and beating the driver. The driver's only mistake was entering this area. He's been kicked in the head. He's laying in the street. Hit the siren, Doug.
It must have been an extraordinary feeling for you, Rodney, to be seeing this chaos all around, to be seeing 2,000 people injured, 12,000 people arrested, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage, and to think that all started with your beating.
Well, the thing is my beating was just one of millions. I just got lucky because it was on tape. And people were tired of seeing the police doing their little side dirty work. You know, people can only take so much mentally.
After 3 days of intense rioting, Rodney King came forward and made a famous, tearful plea before a forest of microphones and cameras, still clearly shaken by what was happening. His speech was credited with helping to bring the situation under control.
People, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids?
It came from my heart. It came from what kind of person I am. You know, I know that my mom had taught us a lot of common sense, and you don't create chaos in your own backyard.
Setting these fires and things, it's just not right. It's not right.
Did other people try to get you to support the violence in any way?
Yes, they did want me supported in one way, it seemed like, but I'm one way, you know. I'm just like, you know, you don't get nowhere with violence. And Martin Luther King taught us that, and just history alone teaches us that. And so the only thing I could think of is saying, can we all get along? Because I'm just used to being able to get along to see things accomplishment. I grew up in a city where you could go over in the all-white neighborhood if you wanted to. You can go in the black hood if you wanted to. But where I lived, it was pretty much mixed. When I went to school and we played ball, we went to win. We had different nationality of kids, and we went as a group. So I remember all the good times that I've had in America. And when I leave this earth, when I'm dead and gone, I want to be remembered like a person that tried to calm things down, try to make a difference for the future, for the generation behind me. And I said that during the speech, and I'll still say that today.
To see the security guard shot on the ground, it's just not right. It's just not right, because those people will never go home to their families again. And please, we can get along here.
Well, now, the 4 police officers who were acquitted faced a second trial in 1993, and 2 of them were found guilty. Was that a vindication, do you think?
Oh, yeah. During the second trial, President Bush and a lot of other cats pushed for me to get justice. At the time, President Bush said what he saw made him sick, and it forced me to get some federal help, because the police, they're too used to winning those kind of cases. So I'm very lucky that the Fed stepped in and made me feel like a real human being and given me justice.
What you saw and what I saw in the TV video was revolting. I felt anger. I felt pain. And I thought, how can I explain this to my grandchildren? Viewed from outside the trial, it was hard to understand how the verdict could possibly square with the video.
And you got $3.8 million in compensation. What was it like suddenly to have all that money?
All that money turned out to be a little bit of money, but a lot of it went on legal fees. A lot of them went on doctor bills, hospital bills. I had a plate put in my cheekbone. I had my eye socket pulled out and put a plate behind that. I still have medical bills to this day. It was a real nightmare with some of those bills. I couldn't believe it.
Was it difficult to pick up your life, to pick up the pieces after all the court cases were over and the media circus moved on?
It took a while to pick up the pieces.
Because you went on having problems with drink, didn't you?
Yeah, and I still drink. I don't drink like I used to. I sip, and that's it. I just had an incident about 8 months ago. I had a sip earlier that day, and I waited around long enough, and I thought the alcohol content had came down, but it was still in my blood. And they gave me a wet reckless, and it was a bad mistake. That is not good for anybody to drink and drive. There've
been a number of cases like that, haven't there, Rodney, where the police have pulled you up for drink driving, but you've also been pulled up for violent behaviour towards your partner or female members of your family. How did you get into that situation?
Well, I would say half of it is like just being Rodney King, and with the name big as it is, it brings on a whole nother demeanor for other people, so.
Well, you mean that puts pressure on you, so you behave badly towards women? Is that the problem?
Oh no, I don't behave bad towards women. I have a mother, and I do respect women, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for one. But I have had arguments with my wife, and we had disagreements, and we've moved on, and we still friends to this day. But I have never been vicious or violent like the media blows it up.
And you took part in 2 rehab shows on TV. Why did you want to do that in such a public way?
Well, I think it's good because, my dad, his generation, they couldn't go to no AA meeting. They wasn't no NA thing that they could go to, And these days, you can get help, and to get that help and to have other people see you get that help, it might encourage a young person or an old person who think they can't get their stuff together, at least get a grip on it.
Did you get to rock bottom? I mean, did you get to a point where you felt you really needed to reach out for help?
I know, me being raised in a family of addiction, as an alcoholic, I will always have to stay close to the programs to know how to get a grip on myself, know the damage that it has effect on my brain.
I'm very interested in what you said earlier about the burden of being Rodney King, because you are somebody whose name is known around the world. How does that affect the way people react to you as you try to go about your daily life?
Well, now that the fire is, down and the smoke is all cleared, it's a total blessing. People, when they see me, they just smile, they tell me something good for the most of it.
What about you, Rodney? I mean, how are you now? What sort of mental and physical scars do you bear from that beating?
I still have headaches from the beating and nightmares and aches, the arthritis and stuff. It's not a day that I don't wake up and realize what happened to me. And every time I see a cop car, it reminds me of the incident in 91.
We've said that you've had a number of run-ins with the police since the beating. Do they treat you very differently now you're a famous name? Oh, man. As far as the police treat me different, when I get pulled over now, they treat me like I'm the sergeant. They give me respect. Except for I run across some of the hothead every once in a while who want some payback, and that's when things go bad. But normally I try to ask them, could you please call the sergeant out here? Most of the time it's like, he comes, leave him alone. This is nothing. Many parallels have been drawn between your case and the failure of the police to take action initially following the shooting dead of the black teenager Trayvon Martin in Florida. What did you feel when you heard about that case? You know, when I heard Trayvon Martin screaming, it's the same scream that I had 20 years ago when I was screaming from the police, and it's a horrible scream. You know, the boy is screaming just before he dies because you want someone to hear him. People who's been through brutality and they know they can see death just seconds before they die, they know that feeling when you're screaming from your stomach. We've heard that scream, you know, millions of times before, so we just got to wait for justice to happen. You know, it was late coming, but I finally received justice in my case, so I'm just hoping that justice will come to the rise on Trayvon Martin. One of the people who helped you to get justice was Cynthia Kelly, who was the only black juror in the lawsuit trial. Cynthia Kelly, my fiancée now. Yeah. She spoke up for you at that trial, didn't she? Yeah, she did. The jury, they didn't want to give me anything, you know, and thank goodness she stuck up. So then you went out for a pizza with her after the trial? Yeah, after the trial was over, not before. I didn't know her before that. I asked my lawyer, could he introduce me to her. I've met with her maybe a couple of times after the trial. We stayed in touch for a little while. But then there was a gap. What made you pick up the phone to her again after so many years? I had been thinking about her, wondering what she was up to over the years. And she had stayed in touch with a relative of mine. So she gave me the phone number, and I called her up. And we've been talking and engaged ever since, going on 2 years now. That's fantastic. Congratulations on that. Thanks. Thank you. And what is it that brings you together? What is it you see in each other, do you think? Oh, man, we have such a nice time together. You know, just her as a person is a wonderful thing, you know. Relationships, they work these days. This one's working itself out for me. And do you think you're also drawn to her because she's someone who truly understands what you went through? Oh, yeah, that definitely played a part, her being understanding of the situation, what happened, what I went through. And do you think that today in America, for black people, things are better than they were when that beating took place? You know, I know things are definitely better, but especially here at home, we should be further along than what we are as far as relations and racism and how we treat each other on a daily basis. You've become something of an iconic figure. You know, as I said earlier, your name goes around the world. Do you wish in a way that you'd been a better role model for young black men? No, I like my skin. I like the body that I'm in. I like the path that Jehovah God has chosen for me, whatever it is. I'd say this much. History, I'm a part of it now. And it's a sad way to be in it, but things happen for a reason. If I hadn't been through what I've been through, I wouldn't be sitting here today. That was Rodney King speaking to me from Los Angeles. He's written